Hello there, scrappers, recyclers, and investors. Welcome to Shark Scrapper Live, where we talk about things like precious metals, industrial metals, the stocks of companies that surround the metals, and, a little business notes and safety notes and things like that thrown in for good measure. It is great to see you all this week. Roger's working on some computers. He'll pop in every now and then when he can. Electronic Scrapper, Earl Fowler, great to have you all here. Scrapping Irish, great to see you here as always. It's been a crazy busy week on this end. I don't know about you all, but man, it was just an insane week here. Plus, it was hot and humid. But, it's Florida, so it's supposed to be hot and humid, right? I hope you all have had a great week as well. Before we get started, I just want to drop a little note here. The past couple of streams, we've had a couple of folks that have started to get a little bit edgy on political comments. Please remember, we don't talk politics here. We talk about scrap, we talk about metal, we talk about businesses, we don't talk politics. So there's plenty of other channels where you can have fun doing that if that's what you want to do. All right, let's jump right in with our precious metal of the week. Today we're talking platinum. There you go, platinum. Spot price $1,026.50. I've got it on the scroll going right now. It's down just a tad for the 24-hour mark. There's going to be a consistent theme going on here with platinum. If we look at the 3-day, we can see that it's down a little bit. If we look at the week, we can see that it's up, but just a smidge. I mean, not much at all there. If we look at the month, it's down. If we look at the 3-month, it's up 5%. And if we look year to date, we're back down again. If we look at the year, the whole, going back a year, we're up maybe just a tiny little bit. And then 5-year, we're up almost 10%. But look, that's really not much you can hardly even see that. And then, of course, as you would expect, if we go back all the way to the 90s, platinum is up quite a bit from back in the 90s. But let's go back here. Let's go back to the month here, because I think this is probably a good place for us to talk a little bit about platinum. Platinum is dominated by the catalytic converter industry. Hey, Gibby, great to have you here. So with platinum being dominated by the catalytic converter industry, the shift to electric cars, EVs, is, hey, Bush Dog, great to see you here, man, is really, starting to weigh on platinum. Now, platinum is considered a precious metal. There are people who buy and trade platinum. There are people that make jewelry out of platinum. So it does have some value as a quote unquote precious metal, but the value for it, more than a lot of other kind of precious metals, is that the role that it plays as a catalyst in the catalytic converters. Now, there are, of course, the concerns that as EVs become more prevalent, it's going to have a significant downward pressure on the platinum industry. And that could very well be. However, one of the other uses for platinum that could change the future is in the hydrogen market. So it's used as part of hydrogen fuel cells and separating hydrogen. So there's a lot of talk about the possibility of hydrogen becoming another clean fuel source for vehicles. Hydrogen engines aren't new. They've been around for a while. Hydrogen is a little bit challenging to deal with, but one of the really cool things about hydrogen energy is the exhaust is water vapor. So it's a real nice material in that sense. But you talk about not having an infrastructure in place and lots of R&D that still needs to happen. There's a lot that would have to happen before hydrogen could really come up to the forefront as an energy source for vehicles. So if it does, if we see hydrogen become more of a play as an energy source, then you see a greater potential for platinum to start to regain some of the favor that it once had as an quasi-industrial metal, if you will. So with that said, I'd like to know if there's anybody out there that's commenting right now that actually does collect any platinum. I do not. I have no physical platinum that I know of, except in the catalytic converters on the mighty Sharkmobile. So yeah, I don't hold any platinum. I've never bought platinum as jewelry or a precious metal to hold or trade. But I don't know. Do any of you all buy platinum out there? Do you all keep rounds or bars or coins of platinum? I don't. It just was never something that I really could wrap my head around. And it was just it would be a little bit difficult. Hey, Mike, great to have you here, man. I think that platinum would be a little more challenging to buy and sell than silver or gold. I can go into any coin shop or pawn shop and buy and sell gold and silver. Platinum, yeah, I probably can, but I think it might just be a little more challenging to find those shop owners that really understand platinum the way they understand gold and silver. I don't know. It's just my gut call. And a couple of times that I've looked at it. So let's see here. We've got Electronic Scrapper says, I don't collect platinum. I also avoid the refining of it for the hazards of the salts. Okay. Yeah, good point. And I never even thought about trying to refine it, man. I'm still trying to convince myself to give a try at refining gold and silver. So I wouldn't have the first idea what to do when it comes to platinum. Gibby's saying, I will collect it. So if you feel you don't want it, I will take it and keep it safe. Okay. Well, so if any of you have platinum and you don't know what to do with it, send it over to Gibby the Scrapper. Yeah, and of course we know that Scrapping Irish doesn't mess with it because he's all about gold. All righty. Well, we're going to move right on to our safety tip of the day. And our safety tip is kind of a little bit different here. This time, talking about safety, I want to focus on not so much how to prevent the injuries as what about when injuries happen. Let's face it, we're humans. No matter how safe we try to be, there are times when things are going to happen, right? So that's why an important element of a well-rounded plan is your insurance. Now, it's more than just your health insurance. You certainly want to have health insurance. And of course, depending upon what country you live in, will determine the nature of what kind of health insurance you have to have, what kind of support you can get for emergencies, for non-emergencies, and those kind of things. But generally speaking, you want to make sure that you can get emergency care if you get injured. And because we're all scrappers, I will just say when we get injured. I mean, yeah, it's just going to happen, right? Now, a lot of times our injuries are pretty minor things, right? Cuts, bruises, you wash them out, you put a Band-Aid on them, or if you're like Mike, you just shove some copper shavings in there to make it hurt more, and you move on. But you can have more significant injuries that can occur, and in those cases, you want to make sure that you can have, you can get your emergency services covered. Now, if you, at least here in the United States, if you call 911 and an ambulance comes to get you, they're going to take care of you. right? The question becomes afterwards, what happens when you have to pay the bills? So you really want to take a look at your insurance situation to make sure you're covered, especially from the health insurance. But there's another aspect. Actually, there are multiple other aspects to insurance that a lot of times folks don't think about, but you really want to pay attention to those. Now, one of them is your vehicle. If you have a homeowner's policy and you're using your vehicle in a business, not as a hobby, but in a business, you risk the insurance company not paying off on damages to your vehicle or if you get in an accident. So if you're doing this as a business, and we'll talk more about this a little bit later, if you're doing this as a business, you want to check your vehicle insurance policy and make sure that you're still going to be covered. Gibby's got to run to the store. We'll see you all a little bit later. Hey, Bill, welcome. Great to have you here, man. So your vehicle insurance is important. And another one to think about is your homeowner's insurance or your renter's insurance if you're renting a place. This is especially important if you're in the business or in the hobby of recycling or casting and pouring, where you're going to have molten metals and flames and things like that. And you burn your garage down. Now, burning garages down is pretty common here in the South around Thanksgiving when people use their turkey deep fryer inside the garage or the carport. But, burning your garage down because you were melting copper or aluminum and something, went wrong, that could be an interesting one to explain to your insurance company. So you want to make sure that you've thought about your homeowner's insurance or whatever, if you're renting, your renter's insurance, to make sure that you're going to be covered there as well. There's another type of insurance that some of you probably have seen the advertisements for, but haven't really given much thought to. It's this company. There's a company called Aflac, and they offer insurance that pays your bills while you are unable to work. Now, you might say to yourself, yeah, but if I'm doing this as a business for myself, I'm not going to be able to do that. Well, maybe not so. If you are a business and this is your full-time job, you may be able to still get Aflac coverage for your bills. You need to talk to an Aflac agent or, company similar. I just use Aflac because I know the name. But you may want to talk with an agent from a company like Aflac and find out if you can, in fact, get insurance to cover yourself, even if you're self-employed. Because that could be important, right? If you hurt yourself and you can't work, you're not making any money. So you may want to look at that kind of insurance as well. Bill, I think Bill's referring to the turkey fryers. Is that the deep fat fryer fires, which is really hard to say, by the way, that you're talking about there? Yeah, I've seen some of those videos too, man. It's just like, God, come on, people, what were you thinking? Earl's got another good point here. Battery storage can also be hazardous. So yeah, that's really important. In fact, Earl, I got an email from Chris at boardsort.com with some information that the EPA might be thinking about declaring lithium-ion batteries as hazardous materials. So we're going to need to keep an eye on that. But yeah, that can certainly be a danger. So battery storage, absolutely another one of those hazardous things that we don't necessarily, that some people don't think about when they're storing them up in their garage or their shed or, something like that. So you want to really watch out for that. All right. So we've talked about your health insurance. We've talked about building insurance, vehicle insurance, and then something like Aflac to help pay your bills if you get injured. And again, I'm not promoting Aflac. It's just the company that most people have heard of that you can talk to. So that's an important one. And of course, the other, and we'll talk about this a little bit more too when we talk about our business notes for the week. But I just really think about that. Take a look at it. If you haven't looked at your insurance yet, or in a while, take a look at it and see if everything is good to go. If you still have all the coverage that you need to have. one of the reasons why I bring this up here in this video is here in Florida, we're having some real challenges with homeowners insurance, and it's played out in the business side as well. Rates are just going insane. I mean, just insane for insurance coverage down here, and it's something that you got to think about. So let's see. Bill says, I wonder if they consider the batteries stored in your car. So Bill, if you're talking about an EV, an electric vehicle, and the batteries that are part of the car, then the underwriters would have already taken into account the fact that there are batteries in an electric vehicle. What is the rate of vehicle fires and things like that when they insure your electric vehicle? Now, your insurance company won't know if you're driving a conventional car, but you're storing a lot of batteries in the car. That's a different story altogether. All right, so that's our safety note for the day. Insurance is going to be a common theme throughout today's discussion. So we'll be thinking about insurance quite a bit. So, all right, well, let's move on. By the way, before we move on, though, anybody here have? You don't have to tell me if you have concerns about your insurance, but just do a me or a yes, no. If, in the past year, you've taken a look at your insurance and, and at least ask the question, are we covered? Because I think, it'd be interesting to see how many of you have taken a look at this. All right, so our industrial metal of the week is, I really ought to get some sponsors going here, because it would be kind of fun to be able to say something like, and our industrial metal of the week is brought to you by, but it's brought to you by me, because I don't have any sponsors. So, all right. So our industrial metal for this week is nickel. Nickel is, nickel's a pretty cool metal, right? Its symbol is Ni. It's the 28th on the periodic table, and we all know nickel because it's a major component of stainless steel. So as we talk about nickel, be thinking about what's going on with stainless steel at your scrapyard. Because I don't think any of us goes out and actually collects stainless steel. I mean, nickel, right? We collect stainless steel. So that's why nickel is of interest to us. So if we look at the 24-hour chart here on nickel, we can see that it's up a little bit, not a whole lot, kind of in the weeds here as far as how much it's up. In the 30-day spot price, it is down. Let's see, where is that's that one. Oh, this is what I'm looking for right here. So we can see that it is down for the 30-day spot price. And oops, there we go. Get rid of that. And you know what? Let's go ahead and do this so that I don't have to keep getting rid of it. All right, now let's go and we're going to look at the, there we are. Here's our 60-day. Our 60-day is also down. And we can see if this is a 60-day, right here is about 30 days. So here you can see where that 30-day line was. And recently it's been, kind of flat, down a little bit, but it kind of has this plateau here at the end. Over the 6 month, we can see that, nickel is come on, Sharky, get your buttons right. We can see that it's still down quite a bit. And if we look at the year, well, what that's interesting. So for the year, nickel came down. Nickel dropped, kind of flattened out, climbed back up, and has been we were up and then I mean, we're down and then we're up and now we're down again. Got this little plateau going here. This flat run looks similar to this flat run. So we probably ought to expect to see nickel start to come back up not in a little while, right? There's the 5-year overall kind of up, right? If you go from here to here, you can see that that's an upward slope on that line. So, 5-year, it's going up. That kind of would stand to reason, right? Well, what's going on here? Is the supply part of nickel influencing this? If we look at the 30-day London Metal Exchange warehouse levels, we can see that the warehouse levels are dropping. That's a very clear down signal, right? So they're using up the inventory of nickel as predominantly stainless steel is being manufactured. The 60-day level dropping in the long term. The 6-month, that's pretty much dropping throughout the 6 months there. And for the year, well, it dropped, kind of stabilized before climbing a little bit, but now it's just been dropping. So we're using up nickel. And then if we go to the 5-year, there's probably not a huge surprise to what we're seeing here. We saw the inventories drop, and then this area over in here is COVID-induced kind of stuff. And then when the world opened up and we start consuming again, well, they produce some stainless steel, and so we see some inventory picking up here, and now we see it dropping. The drop was really steep up until about February. Now it's a little less steep, but it's still dropping. So overall, what we're seeing is inventory levels are dropping. I'm going to go back up here to some nearer term picture. Let's look at this 30-day. Overall, we can see that nickel inventories are dropping. And so if you look at it from a pure supply and demand perspective, you would expect that prices should start coming back up. And that's what I would expect to see happen, which means that stainless steel at the yards that we're selling to should probably start picking back up again. The prices should start picking back up again. Now, of course, a lot of this is very dependent on the manufacturing side. And as we've talked about when we talk about copper, China has not gotten back up to speed as much as a lot of people thought, as fast as a lot of people thought. So that has been weighing on copper, and we're probably seeing some of that on stainless steel as well. So the two things that we have to look for, of course, because it's all based on supply and demand, we can see that supply is dropping. So the question is going to be, is manufacturing picking up enough to consume a lot of stainless steel and drive prices back up again? So that'll be interesting to watch. I'm very curious what you all think about stainless steel. Where do you see stainless steel going? What's your plans for stainless steel? Go ahead and drop some comments here on stainless steel so we can all share what we think is going to happen. I'm on the hook for saying that I think we're going to see stainless steel prices start to rebound. What do you all think? Let's go back over here. Roger is saying that during COVID, he was getting 75 to 80 cents a pound for stainless. Now it's 35 cents a pound. Wow, man, it's like the bottom fell out for you, didn't it? I haven't taken stainless in for a while, but let me check something real quick here, if I can, while we're talking. I'm going to try to pull up my ledger, and let's see, when was the last time I took stainless steel in, and what did I get? Let's see. So I took some stainless steel in last month, and I had 40 cents a pound. So now let's see that. So let's take a look and see, what did I get about a year ago for stainless steel? This is kind of a fun exercise to do while we're waiting for other people to talk about what they got. So in March of 22, I got 65 cents a pound. In May of 22, I got 75 cents a pound. Then it started coming down a little bit. Yeah, Roger, there you go. August of 22, I got 30 cents a pound. And yeah, so the lowest that I got was 30 cents a pound. That was for clean stainless. And this was very interesting because I got 30 cents a pound for clean and 28 cents a pound for dirty. So that's kind of weird. And I guess that's because stainless steel still has steel, so the steel doesn't really make it that much dirty, right? You know, that much dirtier, that much dirty. And now I'm at 40 cents a pound, which isn't great. So yeah, we've got some room to run here. We really need to see some price rebounding. That's for sure. That is for sure. All right, so Bush Dogs. I don't go to the scrap yards very often. The last time was back in November. So he's just hoarding everything around his yard. Okay, man, that's cool. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good view count too. 4,000 views. Man, that's good. That's good. That's sweet. And then so Bush Dog is saying he can't compare prices. Yeah, that's that's cool. So let's see. Living in Omaha says, what is one thing you know now that you wish you would have known when you first started scrapping? That's a very interesting question. What do you all think? Bush Dog, you crack me up, man. Stay in school. Yeah. I think it's important to understand that that scrapping is a scale kind of thing, right? As a peddler, as an individual kind of scrapper, you're not going to make a whole lot of money. And the only way that you're going to make any kind of reasonable money is by constantly pushing. I mean, constantly pushing, right? So you got to be at it every day. Where you make money in the scrapping business is in scale. So having a scrap yard, because the more product you can move, the better you can take advantage of the smaller margins. And not only the smaller margins, but you have the ability to play the commodities game and hold certain materials during the down cycles and sell them during the high cycles. So if you're scrapping as a hobby, it's just fun, you're just killing time, you don't worry about that. If you're scrapping because you really want to make some money doing this, then man, it's a tough road to hoe. And I would say that if you really want to get serious about being in this business, go work for a scrapyard for a while, because you're going to see and learn a lot about what goes on in the scrap business if you just go work at a scrapyard for a while. So, and Earl is saying that the best lesson for me was learning from scrappers online. You know, Earl, that is huge. Because, and I agree with you 100%. I have learned, and I continue to learn so much watching videos that people in our community put out. There's unlike a lot of the old school scrap and recycling people who keep things very close to chest, on YouTube, there's this generation of scrappers who are out there sharing a lot of stuff. Now, you do have to be careful because there are things that some people put out on YouTube that are dangerous, that are just flat wrong, that are misleading. But as you weed through the information that people are sharing on YouTube about the scrapping world and recycling, there's a lot of great information out there to share. So yeah, absolutely. Electronics Scrapper says, he wish you know about the value of circuit boards. I can't believe the amount I threw away. Oh man. Oh, I hear you. I hear you. Oh, it just kills me when I think about some of the stuff that I got rid of in my older computers, in my older electronics that I just didn't realize had the kind of value that were there. Just God, just I don't want to say it keeps me up at night, but there's a lot of times when I'm just like, oh my God, I wish I still had, whatever that was, right? So, and Roger is saying, let's see, he's heard this in other industries. It applies. How do you become a millionaire through scrapping? Start off as a billionaire. Yeah. There's a certain amount of truth to that. But here's the one thing I will say about scrapping, getting started in scrapping, is that you really don't have to have a whole lot of upfront cost to start a small scrapping business. Now, again, you're not going to make a whole lot of money doing it, and you have to be really careful how you proceed with this. But as I've experienced, and Roger, as you're working your way through, you start out with a vehicle of some sort, hopefully some sort of pickup truck or SUV, something that's got some space to carry stuff around, maybe a trailer. The investments are not huge to get started in this business. Compare it to some of the other businesses that people try to start out the gate in. And the startup cost let me put it this way, it does not have to be, really expensive, but it can get expensive fast once you start getting into it and you want to try to gear up into something more meaningful. So Bush Dog says his videos are not intended for education, more as entertainment. Good point. Yeah, no, that's good. The thing that and Bush Dog, where my comment was intended there was, and it's that there are people that will put out videos that are just flat dangerous, right? I can remember back when I was first starting to watch YouTube videos about recovering gold and silver, there was this young couple that they would do things on refining silver and gold, and they would not be wearing masks. And so here they are breathing in fumes that are going to kill them. They're literally hacking up, well, okay, not literally hacking up a lung, but the girlfriend is recording this guy, and he pours in acid. You see this brown, nasty smoke start to come up, and he starts coughing. He's like, maybe I shouldn't be here. Those kind of videos are dangerous. And then there's the other ones that are the misleading videos, where somebody takes a stack of computer boards and they talk about refining the gold, and then they show, a big gold nugget. You didn't get that from those boards, so those are the kind of videos I was talking about, not the, the ones that are just more entertaining about what goes on. So Omaha, be careful when you watch the videos. There's a lot of them out there. A lot of good information is shared, but be careful, take everything with a grain of salt. Roger saying he started out with nothing out of necessity, and he's grown over the past 3 years to where he is now. As an actual business, and he's been doing it, for a long time as a hobby. And I think a lot of us that are in this as a business, we've done it as a hobby for a long time. So we kind of knew what was there. And then at some point, for whatever reason, we decided to commit to it as a business. Omaha, great question, man. Super question, bud. And it's great to have you here. So, we hope to see you more, and feel free to ask any of us questions as you go along, because there's a lot of people here who are happy to share, talk about their experiences, and where they're going and what they're doing. Okay, so let's see, where we got a little bit off track here, but that's okay. It's time to get on with our schedule. So the next thing that we usually talk about is business notes. And as I mentioned earlier, we had talked about insurance from the safety perspective. So we also need to talk about insurance from the business perspective. So when you have a small business, depending upon what state you live in, the city, the county, the country, you may be required to have certain kinds of insurance. So frequently, liability is one of those minimum kind of insurances that people expect you to have. And even if it's not required to have liability insurance, many businesses will only work with you if you have liability insurance, because they want to know that if you get hurt on their property, or you hurt one of their employees or one of their customers, or create some damage while you're on their property, that there's a place that they can go to be made good. So liability insurance is one of those very, very important kind of insurances that a lot of people need to have. And liability insurance really isn't that expensive when it comes right down to it. So you ought to be looking at a minimum at liability insurance. Now, if you are scrapping as a company, you need to look at the insurance that you have on your vehicles, on your property, and for yourself or any of your employees, right? So as we discussed earlier in this broadcast, vehicle insurance, you have to look at your personal vehicle insurance probably will not pay if you get in an accident or otherwise damage your vehicle or someone else's vehicle while you are conducting business. And there are people who say, oh, well, I just won't tell them I was doing business. Hey, look, the insurance companies figure this stuff out, right? That's one of the things they're good at doing, right? So if you're using your vehicle for the business, you want to make sure that you have coverage for your vehicle, either through your personal vehicle insurance coverage or as a separate policy. And if you're going to get a separate policy, then you don't need to have your personal vehicle insurance on that vehicle, because your business policy will cover everything that you're doing with your vehicle. So you definitely want to talk to an insurance agent about getting coverage for your vehicle. And I really think that you want to be careful. There's a lot of fly-by-night insurance companies out there that, in particular, the online kind of business companies that pop up and, say that because we're all online, you save all kinds of money. Well, when you need them, then you can't find them. That's the other part of that. So you want to make sure that when you are looking at insurance, that you're dealing with reputable insurance companies and reputable insurance brokers. Now, I tell you, I was one of these people that thought to myself that, well, I can find these insurance companies. I can find the insurance I need. I don't need to go to a broker. And yeah, I was able to do it, but it took a lot of my time. And I didn't get the best deals that I could have the first year that I was in business. The second year, I joined this group called Business Networking International. One of the people that was a part of my local chapter specializes in business insurance. So I just asked her to take a look at what I had. She did it for free, no charge at all. She said, this policy is really good. I couldn't get you a better rate. Keep that one. This one, I can shop that around. I should be able to save you some money. And she did. So she actually got me better coverage at less money. So if you're not sure what to do about insurance for your business, you may want to talk to an insurance broker who specializes in business insurance. And it's really important that you talk to a broker who specializes in business insurance, because it's very, very different than your personal insurance. So I definitely recommend you take a look at that. And I know that insurance is one of those things, like it feels like you're throwing money out there and not getting anything for it until you need it. And then once you need it, boy, howdy, you are glad that you were paying for a good policy with a reputable company when they come through for you. So liability, vehicle insurance, those are kind of your minimums. If you own your own facility, you definitely have to have liability insurance for when people are on your property or in your building. But you also then need to think about how are you going to replace your building if you have a fire? How are you going to recover your tools or your inventory? And sometimes those can be riders to an existing policy. Like if you get your property coverage, you might be able to get a rider for your inventory, or sometimes that's a separate kind of insurance. So again, talk to a broker about your business and the nature of your business so that you can figure out what you're going to do. Now, if you're renting a space, like Roger and Roger, I'm pretty sure you're renting that space. If you're renting a space, you have another consideration. Your landlord may very well require that you keep a certain type of policy at a certain type of value, and that they be added as what's called additional insured. That means that if you have a fire or something like that, they can also get paid by your insurance company for the damage that you caused to their building. So that's a really important thing to look at if you're renting a space, leasing property to do business on. So there's a lot of considerations for insurance. So let's see, what kind of comments have we had relative to insurance? I'm sure there have been a few. Roger says, it took me 2 months to find an underwriter. They see the name scrapping in your name and they all free. Yeah, no kidding. That was a huge problem for me, right? I mean, that was seriously a challenge. And when I found the broker, I was able to explain to this broker what I do, and that allowed her to go to the underwriters to help them understand what I do. And we finally found a couple of underwriters that were willing to go ahead and go along with that. So it's definitely something that can make people a little bit concerned. The other thing that can kind of scare the insurance company is if they see you posting videos about street scrapping, because now you're out there on the road and you're stopping in traffic and you're picking stuff up, and yeah, that makes them pretty nervous too. So yeah, that's a real issue there. Let's see. What else, Roger? So even as a hobby scrapper, if you are removing items like appliances from a customer's home, yeah, no kidding. Because let's say you're in that home and you're moving that stove out of that kitchen and you ding the drywall. Now you've got to repair the drywall. That's why I don't go in people's homes. I tell them that it has to be either in the garage, and there can't be any cars in the garage when I come pick it up. It's got to be a clear pathway, or it has to be outside the house. I do not go in people's homes to pick up scrap. Period. End of story. All stop. Don't do it. So very, very important. Let's see. Bush Dog is saying here, my mom and I have a small family business. This helps with ease of mind. The customers, insurances, man, no kidding. Yeah. And maybe that's what you're buying, right? When you buy insurance, right? Maybe what you're buying is peace of mind. Very important. All right. Well, I think we beat insurance to. Oh no, we haven't beat insurance to death, because the two companies that we're going to talk about right now are insurance companies. So here is the first one. Now, remember, before we get right over to that, I just want to do a quick reminder for everybody. All of the data that I use when I talk about stocks comes from the Value Line Investments Survey. I am not sponsored by them. I don't get paid by them. In fact, I pay for this. And that's why I like this data. They accept no advertising whatsoever. So all of the data that's in here is just straight data, and their independent analysis of the data without any bias that could be caused from having to keep advertisers happy. Each week I get a new issue, and in this issue, they looked at aerospace defense companies, metal fabricating, steel industry, insurance, property and casualty companies, banking companies, medical services, healthcare information, and biotechnology. So out of all of those, as I was looking at, the industries that are representative, I could have gone with the aerospace and defense company because there's a couple of those that meet my criteria, but none of them were anywhere near 4% in the dividends that they were paying. So I decided that, we're going to stick with the insurance companies because we have a couple of interesting players here that could be reasonable investments for people. So the first one is a company called Mercury General, MCY. The green that you see on the name indicates that I own stock in this company. So remember, I always try to be transparent with everybody when I talk about these things. So I own stock in Mercury General. Their dividend yield is 4.1%. That's as of the 2nd of June. And their price at that time was $31.20. So it's a reasonable entry point to buy into Mercury General for a reasonable return on your investment. So definitely, you definitely want to look at this. Now, here's the thing with Mercury General. Remember my criteria: 17 years of increasing cash flow per share, earnings per share, or dividends per share, with one negative or flat year allowed. And well, they don't report cash flow the way most companies report cash flow, so that doesn't even count. But look at this. Earnings per share, they had a bunch of down years here, right? So they're not qualified. And dividends per share, they're not qualified because we had these two down years here. So what's going on, Sharky? Well, I bought this stock a long time ago, and they had been qualified from the time that they were paying out dividends until 2021. So I had bought the stock way back when they were qualified. It's generally speaking, it's a good company. So I just held on to it. I decided not to sell any of it. And when I buy a stock, by the way, because I'm interested in the dividends and I'm a buy and hold kind of investor, what I'll do is I will automatically set it up so that all of the dividends just buy more stock, right? So the most of these companies all have dividend reinvestment programs. So even if I stop buying the stock, every time they pay me, I'm buying more stock in that company. So it's a good way for you to compound the interest in your company without having to do anything once you've made that investment. So it's it's pretty good. And Mercury General, it's an insurance holding company that writes private passenger insurance and commercial auto insurance, homeowners insurance, as well as other lines. They sell through independent agents. Most of their business is in California, but they also operate in Georgia, Illinois, Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada. Yeah, pretty much all over the country. So it's a reasonable company. It's somebody that you might want to look about if you haven't put any insurance companies in your portfolio. Just something to think about. The other company that I have an interest in is Old Republic International, ORI. Again, I own stock in ORI. So they are paying 3.9, so they're almost 4%, and they have been over 4% at various times when I was investing in them. So, that's a good dividend as far as I'm concerned. The price is good at $25.17 a share. So there's some good entry point there, relatively inexpensive. They're not qualified by earnings per share because you can see they've had some down years here, but they are still qualified as a Div Zero. So 17 years of increasing dividends per share every year. And in fact, it's gone back a lot longer than that. And what's interesting is you can see that they had this long string of, they were only increasing by, a penny, 2 cents. And recently they've started increasing by 4 to 6 cents a share. So they're actually paying out more in their dividends than they had been in the past. So that's a good thing. Let's see. ORI, or Old Republic International, multiple lines and insurance holding company. Its subsidiaries markets underwrite and manage a wide range of specialty and general insurance programs. They have property, liability, mortgage guarantee, title, life, disability insurance fields. So they have a broad range of types of disability insurance that they're writing, or types of insurance that they're writing. And then as well as a lot of corporate kind of insurance that they write. So they're a nice big group. They're all over the country. Again, this one, it's paying a little bit less than Mercury, but it might be a better investment because you can see they've done better recently, and they are still qualified as a Div Zero. So pretty important. It's something good to do in your portfolio if you are interested in diversifying a little bit and keeping that dividend yield up. All right, let's see. Bush Dog has a question here. Let's see. Bush Dog question: is there a minimum amount of shares someone would have to buy to invest, or is it different by share? So actually, Bush Dog, that's a great question. Really good question. It depends on who you're buying the stock through, right? So I've used Charles Schwab to buy my stock. Been with them a long time. I can do it all online. They give a lot of good information that I can get while I'm doing my research through their investment business. So, and I don't remember if Charles Schwab supports fractional buying or not. At a low dollar value like these $25, $30, they're probably not going to support fractional buying. But there are some places where you can buy stock that allows and supports fractional buying. So you put money in, you tell them what you're interested in, and then they're buying fractional shares that come from the round off of other purchases that are being made. So, and it's one of the things that it's kind of, you got to wrap your head around it a little bit. But I've seen this happen where, let's say I'm selling some shares that I have, or I want to, and I just want to share, I want to sell everything that I have. And that comes to some fractional amount of shares. So they'll sell them in blocks, and it's not uncommon for me to see a line where some of the partial share were merged with another buying entity to make the whole share that got sold. I apologize, that's a little bit confusing. So again, the bottom line is it depends on who you're using when you buy your stocks. So if you don't already have a brokerage that you're working with, like Charles Schwab is perfectly good to look at. There's lots of them out there. So you definitely want to, look at how you're buying, what company you're buying through and what their policies are as to whether or not they support fractional buying and selling. So let's see, follow on. I've just been thinking on investing into silver and gold, as it will always have physical trade value hand to hand. So that's a little bit different than stocks, right? Because again, when it comes to silver and gold, I am a firm believer in buying physical gold and silver. I don't ever recommend buying paper certificates that you can quote unquote turn into physical gold and silver. That's just the way I am about gold and silver, right? I want to hold on to it. So in that case, you can buy fractional gold and silver. You don't have to buy a full ounce. just understand that the premiums will go up when you're buying fractional gold and silver. So, if you buy a 1 gram bar of gold, that, the price, it may get it down to a price that you can afford, but the premium that got added onto that is going to be much higher than if you bought a 1 ounce round or a 10 ounce bar. Now, of course, most of us can't afford a 10 ounce bar of gold, which is why a lot of us will buy silver, because we can afford 1 ounce rounds and 10 ounce bars of silver. And when you're buying in those kind of physical things like a 1 ounce round, a 10 ounce bar, the premiums get much more reasonable than fractional quantities. Yeah. Let's see. Roger says, yeah, because when Charles Schwab talks, everyone listens. I remember those commercials. Yeah, that's funny. No, I got, it's funny, Roger. The only reason that I first started trading with Charles Schwab was because I was in the Navy at the time, and I said, I'm going to get into the stock market. I didn't know squat. I was a real knob. And so I went and I was like, how do I do this? And the lady at the bank that I was at the credit union, Navy Federal Credit Union, she said, oh, well, you need to go to somebody like Charles Schwab. So okay. So, I went and found a Charles Schwab that was down the street and opened an account with them and started buying with them. And I've been with them ever since. So, but there's lots of places now that you can buy and sell your stocks other than Charles Schwab. Not that there's anything wrong with Charles Schwab. I'm still with them, but that's just something to think about. Thank you, Shark. As a 40-year-old, it's apparent I don't know much. Really, I spent 20 years beefing a reprobate being. Oh man, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. We're learning so much here, bud, right? So, it's why I enjoy doing this, to try to help share information with folks and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing it. And hey, you've been sharing a lot of good stuff with us too, so it's going both ways, right? Really, man, a lot of good information that you have helped people with as well. So, all right. So, any questions from you all about any of the stuff that we have talked about? That's what I want to do. Yeah. Sometimes I hit the wrong buttons when I'm changing screens and stuff like that. So, any last minute questions? We've got about 3 minutes before we head over to Scrapping Irish's live stream. Remember, if you have autoplay enabled, when we end this live stream, you will automatically be taken over to Scrapping Irish's live stream. And he's probably frantically getting everything set up right now because he's saying to himself, darn you, Shark, you're ending early again. I'm not going to, man. I'm going to hang on till 3 o'clock. Trust me. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm hanging on till 3 o'clock. I'm just letting people know so they don't have to worry about it either. So any last minute questions on any of the stuff that we've covered or where you think things are going? Hey, Bush Dog, this is a really good comment. I'm just always curious. And I tell you what, man, that is such an awesome place to be curious because, it's like, I remember I fell into this trap when I first graduated from college. There was like, I was like, oh, whew, man, I got through, I'm done. But very quickly, curiosity took over, and I kept wanting to learn more stuff. And I have been curious ever since. And I think it was one of these things where, because I had to go to college in order to become an officer in the Navy at the time, that was my path. It's like I had to do it, and I didn't have as much fun as if I had just been more curious. because every time that I've gone back, either for a degreed kind of program or just to figure something out, curiosity has made the learning much more fun, much more fun. So, man, be curious. Really, everybody, just be curious because it is so awesome. And whether or not you get a piece of paper that justifies or certifies that you were curious enough from an educational institute is not as important as what you stuff into your coconut that lets you go on and do things or have a better understanding or, just be cool, right? So it's a great time. So I love that comment, and I wish more people would live by that. Just be curious. So it's a great way to be. And on that awesome note, we are going to say goodbye and head over to Scrapping Irish's live stream. I look forward to seeing y'all over there. If I don't see you over there, have a wonderful week. Stay safe and check your insurance. Later on, y'all.